The cold slap of rejection hit harder than the winter air outside the gala. Seraphine Vale stood alone on the marble steps, her sapphire dress catching the moonlight, trying to remember how to breathe. Inside, champagne glasses clinked and laughter echoed through crystal chandeliers. Out here, she was nobody, just another face that didn't belong. "Please wait outside. You're clearly out of place here." The words still burned in her ears. The socialite's smile had been thin as a knife blade, cutting deeper than any insult Seraphine had heard before. And she'd heard plenty. When your last name opens doors, but your presence closes them, you learn to expect disappointment. You just never get used to it. She pressed her back against the cold pillar, clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Through the tall windows, she could see them, the glittering crowd, the powerful elite of Cyphra, the people who belonged. They moved like sharks in expensive suits, circling deals and status, always hungry for more. Her brother lived in that world, thrived in it. Cashin Vale, billionaire entrepreneur, golden child, the man who turned everything he touched into headlines. He was probably inside right now, shaking hands, making million-dollar promises, changing the world one innovation at a time. Meanwhile, she arranged flowers for a living. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The thing about being invisible is that people forget you're listening. They forget you have feelings. They see the Vale name and expect a certain kind of person, confident, polished, hungry for attention. What they got instead was Seraphine, who spent her mornings in a tiny flower shop in the forgotten corners of Cyphra, creating beauty that would die in a week. Her mother had insisted she come tonight. Your family, after all. You can't hide away forever. But hiding wasn't the problem. The problem was showing up and still being unseen. The wind caught her dark hair, pulling it across her face. She didn't bother pushing it away. Let it hide her. Let the shadows take her. She was good at disappearing. She'd been practicing her whole life. Inside, someone laughed, high and sharp, like breaking glass. Seraphine wondered if they were laughing at her. Probably. The whispers had started the moment she walked in. "Isn't that Cashin's sister? The quiet one. I heard she works in some flower shop. Can you imagine? With all that money." They couldn't imagine. How could they? They'd never felt the weight of a name that didn't fit. Never carried the ghost of expectations they could never meet. Never stood in the shadow of someone so bright that you forgot what your own light looked like. Her father would have understood. Before the accident, before the world tilted sideways and never straightened out, he used to take her to the botanical gardens. He'd taught her the language of flowers, the quiet poetry in petals and stems. Not everything worth knowing, he'd told her once, makes noise. But he was gone now, 6 years in the ground, and still she missed him like it was yesterday. The music inside swelled, something classical, probably Bach, the kind of music that made rich people feel cultured. Seraphine closed her eyes and tried to remember the last time she'd felt like she belonged anywhere. The flower shop, maybe, when it was just her and the roses, the silence broken only by scissors and water. A sound behind her made her tense. Footsteps, heavy, purposeful, coming closer. She didn't turn around. Couldn't. If it was another guest coming to tell her she needed to leave, to go home, to stop embarrassing the family name, she wasn't sure she could take it. Not tonight. Not after everything. The footsteps stopped right behind her. "What are you doing out here?" The voice was familiar, deep, careful, the voice of someone who commanded boardrooms and moved markets with a single decision. Seraphine's heart stumbled in her chest. Cashin, her brother, stood there in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, his dark eyes fixed on her with an intensity she hadn't seen in years. He looked different up close, older than she remembered, harder around the edges. Success did that to people. It polished them until they reflected only what others wanted to see. But right now, in the moonlight, she saw something else in his face. Something that looked almost like concern. "They made me wait outside," she said quietly, the words tasting like ash. "Because I don't fit their world." She watched something shift in his expression. His jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. For a moment, he looked like the boy she used to know, the brother who'd built blanket forts with her and promised to protect her from monsters under the bed. Then his hand moved to her shoulder, warm and steady, and suddenly the night didn't feel quite so cold anymore. What did Cashin do next that changed everything between them? The apology came 3 days later, wrapped in an invitation Seraphine never expected to receive. Cashin showed up at her flower shop on a Tuesday morning, looking completely out of place among the daisies and baby's breath. His suit probably cost more than her monthly rent. The other customers stared. One woman actually dropped her bouquet. "I need to talk to you," he said, like he was opening a business meeting. Seraphine kept trimming stems, her hands steady even though her heart wasn't. "You know where I work now." "Congratulations." "Seraphine. That's my name." "Good memory." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It was the first time she'd seen him look anything less than perfectly composed. "I'm sorry. For the gala. For not noticing. For..." He stopped, his jaw working like the words were stuck. "For everything." She finally looked up at him. Really looked. There were shadows under his eyes she hadn't noticed before. Lines around his mouth that hadn't been there a year ago. Success might have made him powerful, but it hadn't made him happy. "Why are you here, Cashin?" "Because you're my sister. Because I should have walked in there with you. Because I should have told that woman exactly where she could shove her attitude." His voice dropped lower. "Because I saw you standing outside, and I realized I don't even know you anymore. And that's on me." The scissors in her hand trembled. She set them down carefully, buying time, trying to find words that wouldn't crack her voice wide open. "You want to know me? Fine. I'm the sister who doesn't fit. Who never fit. Who watches you build empires while I water plants. Who..." She stopped herself, breathing hard. "Who waited 6 years for you to notice I was drowning." The silence between them felt like broken glass. "I'm noticing now," Cashin said quietly. "Let me fix this." "You can't fix everything." "Let me try." There was something in his eyes, something raw and real that she hadn't seen since they were kids. Before their father died. Before the family business swallowed him whole. Before the distance between them grew so wide she forgot what closeness felt like. Against every instinct screaming at her to protect herself, she nodded. That's how Seraphine ended up at Vailtech headquarters 2 nights later, standing in a conference room that overlooked the glittering skyline of Cyphra. Cashin had insisted she come to a small gathering. His words. What he meant was 50 of the most important people in tech, all drinking wine that cost more than her car and discussing innovations she barely understood. But this time was different. This time, Cashin introduced her, not as my sister like an afterthought, but as Seraphine Vale, artist and entrepreneur. He said it with pride, like she'd already accomplished something worth mentioning. She hadn't, but the way he looked at her made her want to try. A woman in a sharp red dress approached them, her smile calculated and cold. "Seraphine, interesting name. What exactly do you do?" Before she could answer with her usual deflection, Cashin spoke up. "She creates beauty that makes people feel something real, unlike most of the artificial nonsense in this room." The woman's smile froze. Seraphine's heart skipped. "Well," the woman said icily, "how quaint." She walked away, heels clicking like gunshots. Seraphine turned to her brother. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." His hand found hers, squeezing once. "I should have done it years ago." The gesture was small, simple, but it cracked something open inside her chest that had been locked tight for too long. For the first time in 6 years, she didn't feel invisible. The evening wore on. Cashin stayed close, introducing her to people who actually seemed interested in what she had to say. She talked about flowers, about design, about the language of color and texture. Some of them looked bored. Others looked intrigued. One man, older, kind eyes, expensive watch, listened like she was revealing secrets. "You have vision," he said when she finished describing her latest arrangement. "Real vision, not the corporate kind we usually deal with." "Thank you," she managed, unsure what else to say. "Have you ever considered expanding? Teaching? Creating something bigger?" "I know. I never thought." "You should think about it." He handed her a card. "Call me if you're interested. I invest in people, not just ideas. And you, Miss Vale, are someone worth investing in." She stared at the card long after he walked away. Marcus Chun, Venture Capital, followed by a number that could change everything. Cashin appeared at her elbow. "See? Told you." "Told me what?" "That you're more than you think you are." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him that one conversation didn't erase years of feeling small, but the hope blooming in her chest was too fragile to crush with cynicism. They ended up on the balcony around midnight, the city sprawling below them like scattered diamonds. The party continued inside, a blur of voices and clinking glasses. Out here, it was just them and the night air. "Why now?" Serafina asked. "Why decide to care now?" Cashin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Because I saw you outside that gala, and I realized something. I've spent 10 years building a company, making deals, chasing success. And I forgot the only person who ever mattered. Cashin, let me finish." He turned to face her fully. "Dad died, and I thought I had to become him. Had to fill this impossible space he left behind. I thought if I just worked hard enough, achieved enough, made enough money, then maybe," his voice cracked, "maybe I could make up for losing him." Tears burned behind Seraphine's eyes. "You can't replace him." "I know that now." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so gentle it hurt. "But I can be your brother, if you'll let me." She couldn't speak, could barely breathe. All she could do was nod. "Good," he said softly, "because I have plans for you." "Plans?" His smile was slow, dangerous, the same one he wore in boardroom negotiations. "You didn't think I was going to let that talent go to waste, did you?" What plans did Cashin have for Seraphine that would change her life forever? The project landed on her doorstep exactly 1 week later, delivered by a courier who looked terrified of damaging whatever was inside the sleek black box. Seraphine opened it carefully, her breath catching when she saw what lay beneath the tissue paper. A tablet, top of the line, probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. And a note in Cashin's sharp handwriting. "Time to show them what you can do. Design proposal for Vale Tech's new headquarters lobby. Due in 3 weeks. Don't hold back." See. Her hands shook as she powered on the tablet. The screen lit up with architectural plans, measurements, budget projections that made her dizzy. He wanted her to design the centerpiece for a building that would house thousands of employees, a space that would be photographed, analyzed, featured in every design magazine in the country. He'd lost his mind. She was a florist. She arranged flowers for weddings and funerals, not corporate empires. But even as doubt crawled up her spine, something else stirred beneath it, something that felt dangerously close to excitement. She spent the next 2 days sketching. Ideas poured out of her like water from a broken dam. Living walls that breathed and changed with the seasons, installations that merged nature with technology, spaces that made people stop and feel something beyond the grind of corporate existence. By day 3, her apartment looked like a tornado had hit a greenhouse. Sketches covered every surface. Plant samples lined her windowsills. Her fingers were stained with charcoal and dirt, her hair a mess, her eyes burning from lack of sleep. She'd never felt more alive. Cashin showed up unannounced on day 4, letting himself in with the spare key she'd forgotten she gave him years ago. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the chaos, and something shifted in his expression. "You're serious about this," he said. "Not a question, an observation. You gave me a ridiculous deadline and an impossible task. What did you expect?" "This." He moved into the room, careful not to disturb her organized chaos. His eyes tracked over her sketches, lingering on each one. "Show me." So she did. She walked him through her vision. A lobby that felt like stepping into a living forest, where technology and nature existed in perfect balance. Glass and greenery, metal and moss. A space that reminded people they were alive, not just productive. "It's too much," she said when she finished, already preparing for rejection. "Too expensive. Too complicated. Too—" "Perfect," Cashin interrupted. His eyes were bright, fixed on her sketches with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "It's perfect. You're just saying that because I'm your brother?" "No." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy. "I'm saying it because it's brilliant, because it's exactly what Veil Tech needs, because you just designed something that will make people talk for years." The praise settled over her like warm honey. Dangerous. Intoxicating. She wanted to believe him so badly it scared her. "There's a board meeting next week," Cashin continued. "I want you to present this. In person." The warm honey turned to ice. "No. Absolutely not. Seraphine. I can't stand in front of a room full of executives and pitch something I barely understand myself. I'll freeze. I'll mess up. They'll see what I see." His hands found her shoulders, steady and warm. Someone with vision. Someone who creates magic out of dirt and water and light. Someone who belongs in that room just as much as any of them. "I don't belong anywhere." The words came out bitter, truthful. "Then make them understand they're the ones who don't belong. Make them see your world instead of forcing yourself into theirs." His grip tightened. "You can do this. I know you can." She wanted to pull away, wanted to hide behind her old excuses, her old fears. But something in his eyes held her there. Belief so fierce it felt like a challenge. "Fine," she heard herself say. "I'll do it." His smile was sunrise bright. "That's my sister." The words shouldn't have affected her so much, but they did. They sank into her bones and lit something warm that spread through her entire body. When was the last time someone had claimed her like that? Called her theirs with pride instead of obligation? "I'll help you prep," Cashin said, already pulling out his phone. "We'll run through the presentation a dozen times. I'll make sure you know that room better than your own apartment. By the time you walk in there, you'll own them." Cashin. "Trust me." And God help her, she did. The next week became a blur of preparation. Cashin showed up every evening after work, still in his suit, tie loosened, looking exhausted but determined. They worked until midnight most nights, running through her pitch, refining her message, building her confidence piece by careful piece. He was patient in a way she'd never seen him be with anyone else. When she stumbled over technical terms, he explained them without condescension. When her voice wavered, he made her start again, softer but firm. When she wanted to quit, and she wanted to quit at least 5 times, he reminded her why she started. "You're doing this for Dad," he said one night, around 11, when her eyes were glazing over from exhaustion. "He always said you saw the world differently, that it was your superpower." Seraphine's throat tightened. "He said that all the time. He used to tell me that I'd build the structures, but you'd fill them with soul." Cashin's smile was sad. Guess he knew what he was talking about. She didn't trust herself to speak. Didn't trust the emotion building behind her ribs, threatening to spill over. "He'd be proud of you," Cashin added quietly. "I know I am." The words cracked her open. Before she could think better of it, she closed the distance between them and wrapped her arms around her brother. He stiffened for just a second, surprise, maybe, or uncertainty, before his arms came around her, solid and sure. They stood there in her cluttered apartment, holding onto each other like they were the only solid thing in a spinning world. His heartbeat was steady against her ear. His breath stirred her hair. And for the first time since their father died, Seraphine felt like she had family again. When they finally pulled apart, something had shifted. The air felt different, charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Cashin cleared his throat, stepping back, his expression carefully neutral. "You should get some sleep. Big day tomorrow." Tomorrow. Her mind was still foggy from the hug, from the feeling of being held. Board meeting. 9 sharp. His smile was gentle. "You're ready. Trust me." She didn't feel ready, but she nodded anyway. The next morning arrived too fast. Seraphine stood outside the Vailtech boardroom in a navy dress. Cashin had insisted she buy professional but not stiff, elegant but still her. Her hands clutched her tablet like a lifeline. Inside, she could hear voices, important voices, voices that could make or break her before she even opened her mouth. Cashin appeared beside her, looking sharp and powerful in his charcoal suit. "Remember what we practiced. What if I forget everything? Then look at me. I'll be right there." He squeezed her hand once, quick and reassuring. "You've got this, Sarah." The nickname, one he hadn't used since they were kids, wrapped around her heart and squeezed. Before she could respond, he opened the door and led her into the room that would change everything. Would Seraphine's presentation win over the board, or would her past fears destroy her one chance at proving herself? The boardroom smelled like leather and ambition. 12 faces turned toward Seraphine as she entered, their expressions ranging from curious to skeptical to outright dismissive. She recognized some of them from the gala, the sharks in expensive suits who'd looked right through her like she was glass. Now they were watching, waiting, judging before she even opened her mouth. Cashin took his seat at the head of the table, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp. He gave her the smallest nod, a silent message. "You belong here." Seraphine took a breath and began. The first minute was hell. Her voice shook. Her hands trembled as she pulled up the first slide. Someone in the back coughed, the sound loud as a gunshot. She could feel their doubt like humidity in the air, heavy and suffocating. Then she made the mistake of looking at her brother. He was leaning forward slightly, his entire focus on her, like she was the only person in the room, like what she had to say mattered more than anything else in the world. That look steadied something inside her, reminded her why she was here. She stopped reading from her notes and started speaking from her heart. "Everyone in this room knows how to build impressive structures," she said, her voice finding strength. "You know steel and glass, efficiency and function. You know how to create spaces that work." She pulled up her first design, a living wall that cascaded down 3 stories, green and wild and alive. "But do you know how to create spaces that heal?" The skepticism in the room shifted, not gone, but wavering. She walked them through her vision, not with technical jargon or corporate speak, but with stories. She talked about her father, about the botanical gardens, about the way nature made people remember they were human. She showed them research, hard data about productivity, mental health, employee retention in spaces that incorporated living design. Then she showed them the numbers. The cost analysis Cashin had helped her prepare, the projected return on investment, the way her design could become a trademark, a signature that set Vailtech apart from every other tech company trying to prove they cared about their workers. By the time she finished, the room was silent. A woman at the far end, silver hair, sharp eyes, one of the board members Cashin had warned her about, spoke first. "It's ambitious." "Yes," Seraphine agreed. "Risky." "Also yes." "Expensive." "Worth it." The woman's lips twitched. Almost a smile. "I like her, Cashin. She doesn't back down." "Told you," Cashin said, his voice warm with something that might have been pride. The questions came fast after that. Technical concerns, budget worries, maintenance, logistics. Seraphine answered what she could, admitted what she didn't know, and promised to find solutions for the rest. She didn't pretend to be an expert. She was herself, knowledgeable about her craft, honest about her limitations, passionate about her vision. When the board finally dismissed her to deliberate, she walked out on shaking legs. Cashin followed her into the hallway. "That was incredible," he said. "That was terrifying." "Same thing." He was grinning, looking younger than she'd seen him in years. "You crushed it, Sarah. Did you see Thompson's face? I thought his jaw was going to hit the table." She laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. "I can't believe I just did that." "I can." He caught her hand, pulling her to face him. "I knew you could do this. I've always known." The hallway was empty except for them. Too quiet, too intimate. His hand was warm around hers, his thumb tracing absent patterns on her wrist that made her skin tingle. She should pull away, should put distance between them before this moment turned into something she couldn't take back. But she didn't move. "Cashin," she said softly. "Yeah. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." Something flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like pain. "You never needed me to believe in you. You just needed to see what I've seen all along. And what's that?" "That you're extraordinary." The word hung between them, heavy with meaning she wasn't sure she should examine too closely. They were standing too near, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the warmth radiating from his body. The boardroom door opened, shattering the moment. "Miss Vale." It was the silver-haired woman. "We'd like you to come back in." Her heart stuttered. This was it. Yes or no. Success or failure. Everything she'd worked for in the past week coming down to whatever words came next. Cashin squeezed her hand once more before letting go. "Go get them." She walked back into that room with her spine straight and her chin up. She'd done her best. That had to be enough. The woman, Patricia Chong, according to her nameplate, gestured to an empty chair. "Please sit." Seraphine sat, her heart hammering so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. "We've made a decision," Patricia said. "Your design is unconventional, expensive, risky." She paused, and Seraphine prepared herself for disappointment. "It's also exactly what this company needs. The project is yours, Miss Vale. Welcome to Vale Tech." The room tilted. Seraphine gripped the arms of her chair, trying to process words that didn't seem real. What?" Cashin was grinning like he'd just closed a billion-dollar deal. "You heard her. The project is yours. But I don't have." "You'll have a team," Patricia interrupted. "Resources. A budget that will make your eyes water. And Mr. Vale here has volunteered to oversee the project personally, to make sure you have everything you need." Seraphine looked at her brother. He winked. She wanted to cry, wanted to laugh, wanted to run out of this room and call everyone she'd ever known and scream that she'd done it. She'd actually done something that mattered. Instead, she took a breath and said, "When do I start?" "Tomorrow," Patricia said. "Your office is being prepared as we speak." Office. Her office. At Vale Tech. Seraphine Vale, who'd spent the last 6 years in a flower shop that smelled like earth and roses, now had an office in one of the most powerful tech companies in the world. The meeting wrapped up in a blur of handshakes and congratulations. When she finally made it back to the hallway, her legs barely worked. Cashin caught her elbow, steadying her. "You okay?" "I have an office. You have a career." "Same thing." She was giddy, dizzy, high on adrenaline and success. Did that really just happen? It really just happened. He steered her toward the elevator, his hand warm on her back. "Come on, we're celebrating." "Cashin, it's 11 in the morning. So, I'm the boss. I can celebrate whenever I want." They ended up at a cafe 2 blocks from Vailtech, sitting in a corner booth with coffee and pastries neither of them touched. Seraphine couldn't stop smiling, couldn't stop replaying the meeting in her head. The moment Patricia said yes, the look on Cashin's face when he realized his sister had just proved everyone wrong. "I can't believe you did this," she said. "Gave me this chance. I didn't give you anything. You earned it, every bit of it." He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "I'm proud of you, Sarah. So damn proud." The words wrapped around her heart and squeezed. She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through his, and for a moment they just sat there, holding on. Two people who'd found their way back to each other after years of being lost. Something had changed between them, something she couldn't quite name. The air felt different when he was near, charged, electric, like standing too close to a lightning storm. "Dangerous," a voice in her head whispered. "This is dangerous." But she didn't let go. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Cashin's thumb traced circles on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. "Now you build something beautiful, and I get to watch you shine." The way he looked at her made her breath catch, made her wonder if she was imagining the heat in his eyes, the way his gaze dropped to her mouth before jerking back up. She wasn't imagining it, and that realization changed everything. How would Seraphine navigate this new territory where professional boundaries and personal feelings began to blur? The office was a glass box on the 42nd floor with a view that stole her breath. Seraphine stood at the window, watching the city sprawl below her like a living map. From up here, the flower shop, where she used to work, was just a dot among thousands. The gala, where she'd been dismissed, was an invisible memory. Up here, she was someone different, someone who mattered, someone who was playing a very dangerous game. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Cashin entered without waiting for permission, carrying 2 takeout bags and wearing a grin that was pure trouble. "Lunch delivery for the newest Vailtech designer. I have a cafeteria downstairs." The cafeteria serves sadness with a side of mediocre salad. "I brought real food." He set the bags on her desk, a massive thing made of reclaimed wood that probably cost more than her car. "Plus, I wanted to see how you're settling in." It had been 3 days since the board meeting, 3 days of whirlwind orientation, meeting her new team, learning systems she didn't understand, and trying not to feel like an imposter every time someone called her Miss Vale with actual respect in their voice. 3 days of Cashin finding excuses to stop by her office. "I'm settling fine," she said, moving away from the window. "The team is great. The resources are incredible. I'm just waiting for someone to realize it's all a mistake." She looked at him sharply. "How did you?" "Because I felt the same way when Dad put me in charge. Like any second, someone would figure out I was just a kid pretending to know what he was doing." Cashin pulled containers from the bags, the smell of Thai food filling her office. "The secret is, everyone's pretending. Some people are just better at hiding it. That's weirdly comforting. I'm full of weird comfort." He handed her a fork. "Eat. You've been living on coffee and anxiety for 3 days." "I have not." "Sarah." The nickname again, soft and familiar. "I can see the circles under your eyes from here. When's the last time you slept? I sleep. How much? Enough. Liar. She sighed, accepting the container of pad thai he offered. Fine. Maybe I've been a little stressed. A little. Okay, a lot. Happy now. Thrilled. But his expression was concerned, not amused. He sat on the edge of her desk, close enough that his knee almost touched her hip. Talk to me. What's wrong? Everything she wanted to say. I'm terrified I'll fail. Terrified I'll succeed. Terrified of the way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention. I don't belong here, she said instead. Everyone on my team has degrees from fancy schools, years of experience, and I'm just the person who designed something none of them could imagine. The person the board chose, because your vision was too good to ignore. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. You belong here because you earned it, not because of your last name, not because I pulled strings, because you're talented as hell and everyone in this building knows it. Even the people who whisper when I walk by. Especially them. They're jealous. She wanted to believe him, wanted to feel as confident as he seemed to think she should be, but doubt was a stubborn thing rooted deep. What if I can't do this? The question came out small, vulnerable. Cashin's hand found hers where it rested on the desk. Then I'll catch you. Every single time. The promise settled over her like a blanket. Warm, safe, and completely inappropriate, given that he was her boss and her brother, and the last person she should be thinking about the way she'd been thinking about him. The way his eyes lingered. The way his touch made her skin spark. The way every conversation felt like foreplay for something they couldn't name. She pulled her hand away gently. You can't always be there. Watch me. There was something fierce in his voice, something that made her chest tight. They ate in comfortable silence, him perched on her desk like he owned the place, which, technically, he did, while she sat in her expensive chair and tried not to think about how right this felt. How easy, how dangerous that ease was becoming. Marcus Chin called me yesterday, Cashin said after a while. Seraphine looked up. The investor from the party? Yeah, he wants to meet with you. Said something about a project that needs your unique perspective. Cashin's expression was unreadable. It's a good opportunity. Could lead to more work outside Vale Tech. Is that okay? Working on outside projects. Of course. You're a contractor, not a prisoner. He paused. Though I'd be lying if I said I loved the idea of sharing you. The words hung there, loaded with meaning neither of them acknowledged. Sharing me, she repeated carefully. Your talent, your time. His eyes met hers. You know what I mean. Did she? Because lately, she wasn't sure what any of their interactions meant. Whether the lingering touches were brotherly affection or something else. Whether the way he looked at her was pride or hunger. Whether she wanted it to be something else. I'll meet with him, she said, breaking eye contact. It can't hurt to explore options. Good. You should have options. Something shifted in his expression. You should have everything you want. And what if I don't know what I want? The question was more honest than she'd intended, more revealing. Cashin's gaze sharpened, like he'd heard everything she hadn't said. Then we figure it out together. Her phone buzzed, shattering the tension. A message from her team lead about the preliminary sketches. She should look at it. Should dive back into work and stop having conversations that felt like walking on a tightrope. Instead, she found herself asking, "Why are you really here, Cashin?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because I like seeing you in your element. Because I like that you're not hiding anymore. Because..." He stopped himself, jaw tightening. "Because what?" "Because I spent 6 years not knowing you, and I'm trying to make up for lost time." He stood, gathering the empty containers. That's all. It wasn't all. They both knew it. But neither of them was ready to name what this was becoming. "Cashin!" she called as he headed for the door. He turned back. "Yeah. Thank you. For lunch. For everything." His smile was soft, almost sad. "Anytime, Sarah. Literally any time." After he left, Seraphine sat in her glass office and stared at the city below. Her life had changed in 3 weeks. Changed in ways she'd never imagined. She had a career, a future, her brother back in her life, and feelings she had no business having. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Cashin. "Dinner Friday? Just us. We need to talk." Her heart did something complicated in her chest. She typed back. "About what?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, everything. What did Cashin need to tell Seraphine that couldn't wait, and would their Friday dinner conversation cross lines they could never uncross? Friday came too fast and not fast enough. Seraphine changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple black dress that could mean anything. Business dinner, casual evening, something she refused to name. Her hands shook as she applied lipstick, wiped it off, applied it again. This was just dinner, just her brother wanting to talk. Nothing more. So, why did her heart feel like it was trying to escape her chest? Cashin picked her up at 7 in his personal car, not the company driver. That detail felt significant somehow. Intimate. He was wearing jeans and a dark sweater instead of his usual suit, looking younger, more like the boy she remembered from before everything got complicated. "You look beautiful," he said when she slid into the passenger seat. "You look nervous." "Maybe I am." That admission did nothing to calm her racing pulse. They drove in silence through the city, the streetlights casting shadows across his face. She studied his profile, the sharp jaw, the slight furrow between his brows, the way his hands gripped the steering wheel just a little too tight. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere we can talk without interruption." That didn't answer her question, but she didn't push. Just watched the city give way to quieter streets, then residential areas, then, "Is this Dad's house?" The old Victorian stood exactly as she remembered it, surrounded by the gardens their father had loved. After he died, none of them could bear to sell it. Cashin had kept it maintained, preserved like a museum to a life they'd lost. "I thought we could use somewhere private," Cashin said quietly. "Somewhere that feels like him." Her throat tightened. "I haven't been here in 4 years." "I know. Neither have I. Not really. I pay people to maintain it, but I haven't actually walked through those doors since." He stopped, his jaw working. "I thought maybe it was time." They sat in the car for a long moment, staring at the house that held too many memories. Finally, Seraphine opened her door. "Let's go in." The key still worked. The door still creaked in the same place. Inside, everything was exactly as their father had left it. His reading chair by the window, his books lining the shelves, the faint smell of pipe tobacco still clinging to the air. Seraphine's eyes burned. God, it's like he just stepped out. I couldn't change anything. Every time I tried, it felt like losing him again. Cashin moved to the kitchen, pulling out a bottle of wine that had definitely been added recently. "I've been coming here sometimes. When work gets too loud. When I need to remember who I was before I became." He gestured vaguely at himself. "Before you became successful? Before I became alone." The word hung between them, heavy with truth. She watched him pour 2 glasses, his movements careful, controlled. This was the Cashin no one else saw, vulnerable beneath the armor. "You're not alone," she said softly. "I was. For 6 years, I was completely alone. I had employees, business partners, people who wanted things from me, but no one who actually knew me. No one who gave a damn about Cashin Vale, the person, instead of Cashin Vale, the empire." He handed her a glass, his fingers brushing hers. "Then I saw you outside that gala, and I remembered what it felt like to have someone who mattered. Cashin, let me finish. Please. He took a breath. I've been lying to myself for weeks. Telling myself I'm just making up for lost time. That I'm being a good brother. That these feelings are just... He stopped himself, running a hand through his hair. I'm doing this all wrong. Her heart was hammering now, so loud she could barely hear anything else. What feelings? He looked at her then, really looked at her, and there was no hiding what she saw in his eyes. No pretending she'd imagine the heat, the hunger, the way he watched her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. The ones I'm not supposed to have, he said roughly. The ones that make me want to be near you constantly. That make me jealous when other men look at you. That make me think about you in ways that would horrify anyone who knew we shared the same parents. The confession landed like a grenade. Seraphine's wine glass trembled in her hand. She should say something. Should shut this down before it went any further. Should remind him they were family. That this was impossible. That some lines couldn't be crossed. Instead, she whispered, I thought I was losing my mind. His eyes widened. What? The way you touch me. The way you look at me. I kept telling myself I was imagining it. That I was projecting my own. She stopped, her face burning. I thought I was the only one feeling this. You're not. 2 words. Simple. Devastating. They stared at each other across the kitchen that smelled like their father's memory and their own forbidden want. The air between them crackled with everything they'd been denying. This is crazy, Seraphine said. I know. We can't. I know. People would never understand. I know that too. He set down his glass, moving closer, but I can't keep pretending. Can't keep lying to myself about what this is. What is it? Her voice was barely a whisper. Everything I'm not supposed to want. He stopped inches away, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Everything I can't stop thinking about. She should step back, create distance, save them both from this mistake. But her body wouldn't cooperate. Her heart had taken over, drowning out every rational thought. We're not actually related, she heard herself say. Not by blood. The words hung there, the secret they'd never discussed. Seraphine had been adopted at 3 years old after her biological parents died. The Vallas had taken her in, loved her, raised her as their own. She was a Vale in every way that mattered, except the one that suddenly felt most important. I know, Cashin said roughly. God, do you think I haven't thought about that every day for the past month? Every time I try to talk myself out of this. That's the voice that keeps whispering maybe. Don't. She pressed her fingers to his lips, stopping the words. Don't say maybe. Not unless you mean it. He caught her hand, holding it against his mouth. His eyes burned into hers. I mean it. I've meant it since the night I found you outside that gala and realized I'd been blind for 6 years. Realized the person I needed most was right there, and I'd been too stupid to see it. Her breath caught. Cashin, I'm in love with you, Sarah. I don't care if it's wrong. I don't care if the world would judge us. I'm in love with you, and I'm tired of pretending I'm not. The confession shattered something inside her chest, released something she'd been caging for weeks, maybe longer, maybe since they were kids, and she'd looked at her adopted brother and felt something she couldn't name. Say something, he pleaded. Anything. So she did the only thing that made sense. She closed the distance between them and kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, like testing whether reality matched imagination. His lips were warm, gentle, asking permission even as he gave it. Her hands found his shoulders, gripping tight, anchoring herself as the world tilted sideways. Then something shifted. The kiss deepened, hunger replacing hesitation. His hands cupped her face, tilting her head, changing the angle. She made a sound, part surprise, part surrender, and he swallowed it, kissing her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. They broke apart finally, breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. "We can't take this back," Seraphine whispered. "I don't want to take it back. Everything changes now. Maybe everything needed to change." She wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons this was impossible. But standing there in their father's house, wrapped in Cashin's arms, she couldn't remember a single one. "What do we do now?" she asked. He kissed her forehead, soft and reverent. "We figure it out. Together, like we always do." What boundaries would Seraphine and Cashin cross next? And could their forbidden love survive the judgment that was inevitably coming? The morning after felt like waking up in a different universe. Seraphine stood in her apartment, staring at her reflection, trying to recognize the woman looking back. Her lips were still swollen from kissing. Her neck had a mark just below her collar that makeup wouldn't quite cover. Evidence of a line they'd crossed and couldn't uncross. They'd talked until 3 in the morning, sitting in their father's living room, mapping out the impossible. They couldn't tell anyone. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The world wouldn't understand. The family wouldn't accept it. Vailteka's board would have opinions she didn't want to hear. So they'd agreed to keep it secret, to be careful, to pretend at work that nothing had changed while everything had changed. It sounded simple in theory. In practice, it was torture. Monday morning, she walked into Vailtek, trying to look professional, composed, normal. She made it to the elevator before she saw him. Cashin in a charcoal suit, looking every inch the powerful CEO, surrounded by executives discussing quarterly projections. Their eyes met across the lobby. For just a second, his expression softened. Then someone asked him a question, and the moment shattered, and he was back to being the man who ran an empire. She rode the elevator alone, her heart racing, her skin too hot. This was going to be impossible. Her team was waiting in the conference room, ready to review the latest designs. She threw herself into work, grateful for the distraction. They'd made real progress. The living wall was taking shape, the integration of technology and nature coming together in ways that exceeded even her vision. "This is incredible," her team lead Maya said, studying the renderings. "We're creating something that's never been done before." Pride swelled in Seraphine's chest. This was hers. She'd earned this. No matter what happened with Cashin, she had this. Her phone buzzed. A text from him. "Lunch? Conference room C. It'll be empty." She shouldn't. They'd agreed to be careful. But her fingers were already typing. "Okay." Conference room C was on the executive floor. Glass walls overlooking the city. Cashin was already there when she arrived. Door closed, blinds drawn. He turned when she entered, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "We said we'd be careful," she reminded him. "We are being careful. The door's locked. No one saw you come up." He moved closer, his hand finding her waist. "I just needed to see you. Really see you. Not perform for everyone else." She understood. The pretending was exhausting. Playing strangers when all she wanted was to touch him, to be near him, to stop hiding what they were to each other. "We can't keep doing this," she said, even as her hands found his chest. "Someone will notice. Let them notice." His lips brushed her temple. "I'm tired of hiding you. Cashin." I know we agreed. But it's killing me, Sarah, watching you across the office and not being able to." He cut himself off, jaw tight. "How are we supposed to do this?" She didn't have an answer. Didn't know how to navigate loving someone you weren't supposed to love, wanting someone you had to keep secret. All she knew was that being in his arms felt right in a way nothing else did. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other, stealing a few minutes of truth before putting their masks back on. A knock at the door shattered the moment. They jumped apart like teenagers caught sneaking around. "Mr. Vale." A voice from outside. "You're needed in the executive meeting." "Be right there," Cashin called, his voice perfectly controlled. He looked at Seraphine, frustration and longing warring in his expression. "Tonight, come to my place. Please." "That's not being careful." "I don't care anymore." But he did care. They both did. They cared about Veiltech, about her project, about not destroying everything they'd built. So she nodded, even though spending more time together was dangerous. "Tonight," she agreed. That evening, she showed up at his penthouse apartment, all glass and steel, and a view that made her dizzy. Cashin answered the door in jeans and a t-shirt, looking younger, more vulnerable than his CEO persona allowed. "I made dinner," he said. "Well, I ordered dinner and put it on plates, but I tried." She laughed despite herself. "Romantic." "I'm working with limited skills here." They ate on his balcony, the city lights spreading below them like fallen stars. It felt surreal. Her adopted brother turned lover. This secret they carried, the impossible situation they'd created. "Tell me this isn't crazy," she said. "It's completely crazy." "That's not helpful." "You want me to lie?" He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Fine. This is totally normal. Falling in love with your adopted sister happens all the time. No big deal. We're not technically related. We grew up in the same house, called the same people mom and dad, shared Christmases and birthdays, and..." He stopped, his expression pained. "It doesn't matter that we don't share blood. Everyone sees us as siblings." "I know. So, why does this feel so right?" The question hung between them, unanswerable, because it did feel right, wrong in every way society would judge, but right in every way that mattered. "Maybe love doesn't care about rules," Seraphine said quietly. "Or maybe we're just selfish." But there was no conviction in his voice. They cleaned up together, moving around his kitchen with an ease that shouldn't exist. Then they ended up on his couch, her tucked against his side, his arm around her shoulders, watching the city breathe below them. "We can't keep this secret forever," she said. "I know. Eventually, someone will find out." "I know that too." "What happens then?" He was quiet for a long time. "Finally, then we deal with it. Together." She wanted to believe it would be that simple, but she'd seen how the world worked, how people judged, how families fractured over less scandalous revelations. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. "You won't. Whatever happens, you won't lose me." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "I promise." But promises were fragile things, easily broken by reality. The next morning, Seraphine arrived at work to find Maya waiting by her office, her expression troubled. "We need to talk," Maya said. Seraphine's stomach dropped. "About what?" "About the rumors." "What rumors?" Maya closed the office door behind them. "People are talking. About you and Mr. Vale. About how much time you spend together. About..." She stopped, choosing her words carefully. "About whether there's something inappropriate happening." The world tilted. "That's ridiculous. He's my brother. Adopted brother. And I'm just telling you what people are saying." Maya's expression was kind but firm. "I don't care what's happening between you two, but if the board hears these rumors, it could affect the project. Could affect both your careers." Seraphine sat down heavily. They'd been so careful, or they thought they had been. Apparently not careful enough. "What should I do?" "Put distance between you. Publicly, at least. Make it clear there's nothing unprofessional happening." Maya hesitated. "Is there something unprofessional happening?" The question was gentle, non-judgmental, but Seraphine couldn't answer it. Couldn't lie, but couldn't tell the truth. "I'll handle it," she said finally. After Maya left, Seraphine sat in her glass office and tried not to panic. This was what they'd feared. This was why they'd tried to be careful. But careful wasn't enough when people were watching, judging, assuming. Her phone buzzed. "Cashin, my office. Now." He'd heard. Of course he'd heard. News traveled fast in corporate environments. She found him pacing his office, his expression darker than she'd ever seen it. "They're talking," he said without preamble. "I know. Someone saw us in conference room C, or thinks they saw us. The rumor's already spreading. What do we do?" He stopped pacing, his jaw tight. "We end it. Publicly. Make it clear there's nothing between us except a professional relationship." The words hit like a physical blow. "You want to break up? I want to protect you. Your career. The project. Everything you've worked for." He looked at her with anguish in his eyes. "I won't let them destroy you because of me. What about what I want? What you want doesn't matter if you lose everything. What about what I want? Was brutal, honest. What you want doesn't matter, and completely if you unacceptable. Lose everything. Don't tell me what matters to me." Brutal, honest, she said, and completely unacceptable. "Don't make decisions. Don't tell me what matters to me without asking me first." Anger rising. "Sarah, don't make decisions about my life. You don't get to do without this. Asking me first. You don't get to tell me you love me, Sarah, and then push me away the first time. You don't get to do hard. This. You don't get to tell me you love me. I'm trying to protect you, and then push me away the first time things get hard. I need you to fight for us. I'm trying to protect you. Instead of running the second people start talking, I need you to fight for us. They stared at each other. Instead of running the second people start talking, the air between them crackling with anger. They stared at each other and hurt, both breathing hard. "I can't lose you." The air between them crackling with anger, not to scandal, and fear, not to judgment. "I can't lose you, not to anything," Cashin said roughly. "Then don't let go, not to scandal. Could they survive the scrutiny that was about to tear them apart? Then don't let go. Fear destroy? Could they survive the barely begun that was about to tear them apart? The confrontation came fear from destroy an unexpected source. Barely begun to Cashin's fiancé. The confrontation, a detail he failed to mention unexpected until she showed up at Seraphine's office. Fiancé. 3 days later, a detail he failed to mention until she showed up at Seraphine's office. "We need to talk." 3 days later, the woman said, looking like closing the door behind her with a click that sounded like a threat. "We need to talk." The woman Seraphine stood closing the door behind her with a click that sounded like a threat. Victoria Hale. Seraphine stood Cashin's fiancé. "I'm sorry." She said it with the confidence of Victoria Hale stating an undeniable fact. She said it with the confidence of someone stating an undeniable fact. The word echoed in Seraphine's head like a death knell. The world stopped. He never. The word echoed in Seraphine's head. Men like Cashin are excellent at compartmentalizing. Of course Victoria moved closer. Men like Cashin are heels clicking on the hardwood. "Let me guess. Victoria told you closer. That you were special. Her heels that clicking what you have on the hardwood. Is different. Let me guess. Never felt this way told before. You that you were special. Each word that what you have is different. Seraphine's never felt this way the before. Edge of her desk. Each word was a knife. I will. Seraphine's after I make something gripped the edge of her desk. You should Victoria's smile I will sharp enough to after cut. I make something I've very invested clear. 3 years in Victoria's smile 3 years sharp enough to playing cut. The perfect partner. I've invested 3 years attending the right events making the right connections. Playing the perfect partner. I'm not going to let some little attending sister the right events with a crush ruin my making plans. The right connections. We're not. I'm not going to let some little sister with everyone's a crush ruin my plans. The way he looks at you. We're not. The private meetings. Please. The special everyone's treatment. Talking about it. Victoria the way he looks at you. The private meetings dropping to something the special dangerous. Treatment. I don't care if you're sleeping with him, her voice or just thinking about it. Something dangerous. Either way, you're a problem. I don't care if you're sleeping and I solve problems or just thinking about it. Is that a threat? Either way, it's a fact. You're a problem. Walk away from him. And I solve problems. Or I'll make sure your pretty little project it's a fact. Buried. Walk away from him. I have friends on the board. Or friends I'll make who'd sure love to hear about how the CEO's sister is I have friends on the board to success. Friends who'd love to hear about how the CEO's sister is sleeping her way to success. Get out of my office. Rage flooded through Seraphine. Just remember what I said. And righteous. Victoria get out of my office. At the door. Gladly. And Seraphine. Just remember what I said. He'll never choose you. Victoria like paused at the door. Don't throw away their carefully constructed lives. He'll never choose you. Forbidden love. Men like Cashin. They choose don't throw away their they always choose constructed lives for the door closed. They Seraphine choose power. Stood there shaking. They always choose power. Trying to process the what door had just closed. Happened. Cashin had a fiancé. There shaking. A fiancé trying to process never what had just happened. Not once in all their conversations, their confessions. A fiancé he'd their never kisses that tasted not like once in all their conversations. She grabbed her phone, fingers trembling as she tasted like your office. She grabbed her phone. He must have heard something in those 2 words. Your office. Because he responded immediately. He must have heard something in those 2 words. He arrived 5 minutes later because he responded immediately. What's wrong?
On my way. Victoria
He arrived
Hale
5
just paid
minutes
me a
later,
visit,
looking concerned.
The color drained
What's
from
wrong?
his face.
Victoria
Sarah,
Hale
I can
just
explain.
paid me a visit. You're
The
engaged.
color drained from his
You're
face.
engaged, and you
Sarah,
didn't think that
I
was
can
worth
explain.
mentioning. You're
It's not.
engaged.
It's
You're
complicated.
engaged, and you didn't think that
Complicated?
was worth mentioning.
That's your explanation.
It's not. She laughed.
It's complicated.
The sound bitter.
Complicated?
You told me you
That's
loved
your
me.
explanation.
You said we'd figure
She
this
laughed.
out together. The
And
sound
the whole
bitter.
time,
You told
you
me
had a
you loved
fiancé.
me. You said we'd
It's a
figure
business
this out
arrangement.
together. It
And
doesn't
the whole
mean
time,
anything. You had a fiancé.
It means you lied.
It's
It
a
means
business
everything you
arrangement.
said was.
It doesn't mean
She
anything.
stopped,
her throat
It
tight.
means you lied.
How could you do
It
this
means
to
everything
me?
you said was.
I was going to tell you.
She stopped.
I just
her
needed
throat
to end
tight.
things with her
How
first.
could you do this to me?
The engagement
I was going to tell
my
you.
mother's idea.
I just needed to end
a
things
merger
with
of
her
families.
first.
The
Good for
engagement
business.
was my
I
mother's
haven't loved
idea.
Victoria in.
A merger of
He stopped.
families. I've never
Good for
loved
business.
Victoria. I
Not
haven't
the
loved
way I love
Victoria
you.
in. That
He
doesn't
stopped.
make this okay.
I've never loved Victoria.
I know
Not
it
the
doesn't.
way I love you.
But
you have to believe
that
me.
doesn't make this okay.
The only reason
I
know.
didn't end it
I know it doesn't.
immediately.
But
was
you have to
because
believe
I was
me.
trying to protect
The
you.
only reason
If
I
I
didn't
broke off
end
the
it
engagement
immediately,
suddenly,
people
was
would ask
because I was
why.
trying to protect
They'd
you.
figure out it was
If I broke
because
off
of
the
you.
engagement suddenly,
The rumors would get
people would
worse.
ask why.
So
They'd
you thought
figure out
keeping
it
me in
was
the dark
because
was
of
better?
you. The rumors
I
would
thought
get
giving
worse.
us time was better.
So you thought
He
keeping
moved
me
closer.
in the dark was better?
Desperation in his eyes.
I thought giving us time
I was going
was
to tell
better.
you. Tonight.
He moved closer.
I was going to end
Desperation
things with
in his
Victoria,
eyes. And
I was
tell
going to
you
tell
everything.
you.
Tonight.
You have to believe me.
I was going to end
She
things
wanted
with
to.
Victoria.
God.
And
She
tell
wanted
you
to
everything.
believe him.
You have
But
to believe
trust.
me. Once
She
broken
wanted to.
was hard
God.
to rebuild.
She wanted to believe
She
him.
threatened me.
But trust.
Seraphine said
Once
quietly.
broken
was
said
hard
she'd
to
destroy
rebuild.
my project.
She threatened
That
me.
she had friends on the
Seraphine
board.
said quietly.
Cashin's
Said
expression
she'd
went
destroy
dark.
my project.
She has no
That she
power
had
over
friends
your
on the
project.
board. I won't let
Cashin's
her.
expression went
You
dark.
can't protect me from
She has no
everything.
power over your
Don't
project.
you see that?
I
This
won't
whole
let her.
thing is a disaster.
You can't protect me
We've
from
been
everything.
lying to ourselves.
Don't you see that?
Thinking we could
This
make
whole
this
thing
work.
is a disaster.
But we can't.
We've
There
been
are
lying
too
to
many
ourselves.
obstacles. Thinking
Too
we
many
could make
people
this
who'll
work.
get hurt.
But we can't.
So, what are you
there
saying?
are too many obstacles.
I'm saying maybe
too many
Victoria
people who'll get
was
hurt.
right.
Maybe you
So,
should
what are you
choose
saying?
power.
Choose the
I'm
life
saying maybe
that makes
Victoria
sense.
was right.
The one that doesn't
Maybe you should
scandalize
choose power.
everyone. And
Choose the
ruin
life
careers
that makes
and
sense.
force you to choose
The one that
between
doesn't
love
scandalize
and
everyone
everything
and
you've built.
ruin careers.
Don't.
And force you to choose
His voice
between
was raw.
love and
Don't do this.
everything you've built.
One of us has to
Don't.
be realistic.
His voice was
realistic.
raw.
Don't do
I'll
this.
tell you what's realistic.
One of us has to
I'm
be
in love
realistic.
with you.
That's the only
Realistic?
truth that matters.
I'll tell you what's realistic.
Everything else is just
I'm
noise.
in love with you.
That's
That
the only
noise is
truth
going to
that
destroy
matters.
us.
Everything
Then
else
let it.
is just
I don't
noise.
care.
I'd
That
rather have
noise
you
is going
and
to
scandal
destroy
and
us.
power and emptiness.
Then let it.
I
The
don't
words
care.
hung between them.
I'd rather have you
Beautiful
and scandal
and
than
impossible.
power and emptiness.
Seraphine wanted to
The
believe
words
them.
hung between them.
Wanted to think love
Beautiful
could
and
conquer
impossible.
everything.
Seraphine
But she'd
wanted
seen
to
too
believe
much.
them.
Wanted
Lived
to
through
think
too
love
much
could
disappointment
conquer everything.
to trust in
But
fairy
she'd seen
tales.
too much. Lived through too much disappointment to trust in fairy tales. You say that now, she said. But what about next week? Next month? When the board demands you choose between me and Vailtech? When your mother stops speaking to you? When every business partner looks at you differently? Then I deal with it. You shouldn't have to deal with it. You've worked your whole life to build this company. I won't be the reason you lose it. You're not the reason. Yes, I am. We both are. She took a breath, steadying herself. I think we need space. Time to figure out what we really want without this intensity clouding everything. Space. He looked at her like she'd stabbed him. You want space. I want clarity. And I can't have that when I'm with you. So this is it. You're just walking away. I'm giving us both a chance to think clearly, to make decisions that aren't just driven by. She gestured helplessly between them. By this. By love. That's what you mean. You're running because you're in love with me and it terrifies you. The accusation hit too close to home. Because he was right. She was terrified. Terrified of losing him. Terrified of losing herself. Terrified of making the wrong choice and regretting it forever. Maybe I am, she admitted. But at least I'm being honest about it. The pain in his eyes was almost unbearable. But she held her ground. Because loving him wasn't enough. They needed more than just feelings. They needed a plan. A future, something beyond stolen moments and secret meetings. If you walk out that door, Cashin said quietly, I'm not going to chase you. I'll give you the space you want. But I need you to know something first. What? I'm ending things with Victoria. Today. Right now. Not because of you, though you're a huge part of it, but because I'm done living a life that isn't mine. Done making choices based on what other people expect. He stepped closer, his eyes burning into hers. I'm choosing me. I'm choosing what I want. And what I want is you, whether you want me back or not. Then he walked out, leaving her standing in her office with her heart in pieces on the floor. Would Seraphine's fear cost her the only person who truly understood her? Or would Cashin's bold move give them a chance at real happiness? The scandal broke 3 days later. Someone, probably Victoria, though no one could prove it, leaked the story to the business press. Vailtech CEO in inappropriate relationship with adopted sister. The headlines were everywhere. Social media exploded. The board called an emergency meeting. Seraphine watched her carefully constructed life implode in real time. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters camped outside her apartment. Colleagues avoided eye contact in the hallways. The project she'd worked so hard on was suddenly in jeopardy, the board questioning whether she was fit to lead it. And Cashin was facing his own firestorm. She hadn't talked to him since their fight, hadn't answered his texts or calls. She'd asked for space, and he'd given it to her. Even now, with everything falling apart, he respected her boundaries. But watching him defend their relationship in a press conference, his voice steady, his expression fierce, his words leaving no room for doubt, broke something open inside her. Seraphine Vale is the most talented designer I've ever worked with, he told a room full of journalists. She earned her position through merit, not through any personal connection. The insinuation that she slept her way to success is insulting, sexist, and completely false. But you admit you have feelings for her? A reporter pushed. I admit I love her. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not going to apologize for it. His eyes found the camera, and it felt like he was looking directly at her. She's the best person I know, and if loving her costs me everything, then I'll pay that price gladly. Seraphine watched from her apartment, tears streaming down her face, her heart breaking and healing simultaneously. He was fighting for her, for them. While she'd been hiding, terrified of the judgment, he'd been standing in front of the world and claiming what they had. She grabbed her keys. The press was still camped outside Vailtech headquarters when she arrived. Cameras flashed. Questions were shouted. She ignored all of it, pushing through the crowd, security finally clearing a path. She found Cashin in his office, slumped in his chair, looking more exhausted than she'd ever seen him. He looked up when she entered, surprise flickering across his face. Sarah, I watched your press conference. Yeah. His voice was careful, guarded. What did you think? I think you're either the bravest person I know or the craziest. Probably both. She moved closer, her heart hammering. I'm sorry. For running. For being scared. For letting fear dictate my choices instead of. She stopped, taking a breath. Instead of fighting for what I wanted. And what do you want? You. This. Us. Even if it's messy and complicated, and the whole world thinks we're wrong. She reached for his hand. I want you, Cashin. I'm done pretending I don't. He stood slowly, like he was afraid sudden movement might shatter the moment. You mean that? I mean it. I love you. Not as a brother. Not as my boss. As the man who sees me when everyone else looks away. As the person who makes me want to be braver than I am. You're already the bravest person I know. Then be brave with me. Let's stop hiding. Stop apologizing for loving each other. Let's... She faltered, suddenly uncertain. Let's figure this out. Together. Like you said. Together, he echoed. Then he was kissing her, deep and desperate and full of promise. She melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, her heart finally settling into a rhythm that felt like home. They broke apart finally, breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. "This is going to be hard," she whispered. "I don't care. People are going to judge us. Let them. We might lose everything. As long as I have you, I have everything that matters." He cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away her tears. "I love you, Sarah. That's the only truth I need. I love you too." The admission felt like freedom, like finally letting go of the weight she'd been carrying, like stepping into sunlight after years in shadow. A knock at the door interrupted them. Patricia Chang, the board member who'd approved Seraphine's project, entered without waiting for permission. "We need to talk," she said, her expression unreadable. Seraphine's stomach dropped. This was it, the moment they'd been dreading. The board's decision about their future at Vailtech. "The board has deliberated," Patricia continued, "about your relationship, about the implications for the company." Cashin's hand found Seraphine's, holding tight. "And?" he asked, his voice steady despite the tension radiating from his body. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Then her expression softened. "And we've decided that what two adults do in their personal lives is their business, as long as it doesn't interfere with their professional performance." Seraphine blinked. "What?" "You heard me. The board believes that Seraphine earned her position through talent and hard work. Your personal relationship, while unconventional, doesn't change that fact." Patricia's lips twitched. "Though we do expect a certain level of discretion moving forward. You're not firing us." Cashin sounded as shocked as Seraphine felt. "Why would we fire our best CEO and our most innovative designer? That would be terrible business." Patricia moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I think what you said in that press conference took courage. Real leadership isn't just about making money. It's about standing by what you believe in, even when it's hard." After she left, Cashin and Seraphine stood in stunned silence. "Did that just happen?" Seraphine finally asked. "I think so. We still have our jobs." Apparently. She started laughing, slightly hysterical, completely relieved. Cashin joined her, pulling her close, his laugh rumbling against her chest. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it. We did. Though I think the hard part is just beginning." "What hard part?" "Figuring out how to have a normal relationship when nothing about us is normal." She pulled back to look at him. "Who wants normal anyway?" His smile was pure sunshine. "You've got a point." They spent the rest of the evening in his office, planning their future, not just as CEO and designer, but as partners, as people who'd chosen each other despite every obstacle, as two people who'd found love in the most unexpected place. It wouldn't be easy. There would still be judgment, still be people who didn't understand, but they'd face it together. That was enough. What unexpected challenge would test Seraphine and Cashin's newfound courage, and would their love survive one final twist? 6 months later, Seraphine stood in the completed Vailtech lobby, surrounded by the living installation she'd created. 3 stories of cascading greenery, integrated technology that responded to movement and sound, natural light filtering through glass and leaves. It was more beautiful than she'd imagined, more alive. People stopped when they entered, their faces transforming from corporate masks to genuine wonder. She'd done this, created something that would outlast her, that would touch thousands of lives, that proved she was more than just a name or a scandal. "It's perfect," a voice said behind her. She turned to find Marcus Chun, the investor who'd believed in her from the beginning. He'd backed 3 more of her projects in the past months, helping her build a design firm that was rapidly gaining recognition. "Thank you for taking a chance on me," she said. "I didn't take a chance. I made a smart investment. He smiled. You're going to change the industry, Seraphine. I'm just glad I get to watch it happen. Thought you might need this, he said, handing her one. You're getting predictable in your old age. I'm 32. Ancient. She took the coffee, warmth spreading through her fingers. Shouldn't you be in some important meeting? Cancelled it. Figured watching my girlfriend admire her masterpiece was more important. Girlfriend. The word still felt strange sometimes. They'd been navigating this new reality for 6 months. Dating openly, learning each other outside the secrecy, building something real beyond the forbidden thrill. It was harder in some ways, easier in others, more honest, always. Our mother called, Cashin said carefully. Seraphine tensed. Alara Vale had been the hardest obstacle to overcome. The woman who'd adopted Seraphine, loved her, raised her, and couldn't understand why her children had crossed this particular line. What did she say? She wants to have dinner. All of us, she said. He paused, choosing his words. She said she's been thinking a lot about Dad, about what he would want, and she thinks he'd want his family together, even if it looks different than she imagined. Tears pricked Seraphine's eyes. She said that. She's trying, Sarah. It's not acceptance yet, but it's not rejection either. It's a beginning. Yeah, a beginning. They stood together in the lobby she'd created, watching people move through the space, transformed by beauty and light. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos. Inside, there was peace. I have something for you, Cashin said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Seraphine's heart stuttered. Cashin, relax. It's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver bracelet, engraved with coordinates. Recognize these? She looked closer. The botanical gardens, where Dad used to take us. I had it made to remind you how far you've come, from the girl who hid among flowers to the woman who brings nature to life in the heart of the city. His voice softened, and to remind you that some roots run too deep to ever truly sever. You were always meant to be a veil, blood or not. She couldn't speak past the lump in her throat, just held out her wrist so he could fasten the bracelet, his fingers gentle against her skin. Thank you, she managed finally. For what? For seeing me, for choosing me, for being brave enough to love me even when it would have been easier not to. Loving you has never been the hard part. Living without you, that would have been impossible. He kissed her forehead, soft and reverent. You saved me, Sarah, from a life that looked successful but felt empty. You reminded me what actually matters. We saved each other. Yeah, I guess we did. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maya. New client wants to meet. Big project. International. Could be huge for the firm. Opportunity knocking. Again, her life had become a series of open doors, each one leading somewhere she'd never imagined she could go. Good news, Cashin asked. Potentially great news. Another project. Bigger than anything I've done before. You're going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. She looked up at him. This man who'd been her brother, her friend, her impossible love. Will you be okay if I'm traveling more? If work gets crazy? I'll be fine. I'll miss you, but I'll be fine. His smile was easy, genuine. I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. This isn't the kind of love that disappears when things get complicated. This is the forever kind. Forever. The word should have scared her. 6 months ago, it would have sent her running. But now, standing in the lobby she'd created, wearing the bracelet that honored her past, looking at the man who'd fought for their future, forever sounded exactly right. I love you, she said simply. I love you too. Now go. Conquer the world. I'll be here when you get back. She kissed him once, quick and sweet, then headed toward her next adventure. As she walked through the living installation, sunlight filtering through leaves and glass, She thought about the journey that had brought her here. From invisible to unmissable, from hiding to shining, from the forgotten heiress to the woman who'd built her own legacy. She'd learned that worth wasn't inherited or given. It was claimed. That family was about choice as much as blood. That love didn't follow rules or respect boundaries. It just was fierce and true, and sometimes impossible to explain. Most importantly, she'd learned that the only person who could make you feel invisible was yourself. Everyone else was just reflecting back what you showed them. And Seraphine Vale? She was done hiding in shadows. The elevator doors closed on the lobby, on Cashin watching her with pride in his eyes, on the life she'd built from courage and flowers and impossible love. As she rode up to her office on the 42nd floor, she smiled. This was just the beginning. Sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones that don't make sense on paper, the ones that break rules and challenge expectations, the ones where two people who aren't supposed to fit together create something extraordinary precisely because they refuse to let anyone else define what was possible. Seraphine and Cashin's story wasn't conventional. It wasn't easy. It wasn't what anyone expected, but it was theirs. And that made it perfect. Because at the end of the day, the only truth that mattered was simple. They'd found each other. They'd chosen each other. And they'd built a love strong enough to withstand judgment, scandal, and fear. That kind of love, that was worth fighting for. That was worth everything. Thank you so much for joining us on Seraphine and Cashin's journey from invisible to unforgettable, from forbidden to forever. Their story reminds us that real love doesn't ask for permission. It just asks for courage. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or made you believe in the power of choosing your own path, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Share your thoughts. Tell us what resonated with you. Your words might inspire someone else who needs to hear that it's okay to love in ways the world doesn't always understand. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another powerful love story that challenges expectations and celebrates the courage to be yourself. We have so many more incredible journeys to share with you. Stories of resilience, redemption, and the kind of love that changes everything. Drop a comment telling us, what would you have done in Seraphine's position? Would you have fought for love or walked away? We can't wait to read your perspectives. Until next time, remember, you are never invisible unless you choose to be. Your story matters. Your love matters. And sometimes, the most beautiful thing you can do is refuse to apologize for taking up space in this world. See you in the next story. Keep believing in love. Keep fighting for what matters. Keep shining. After he left, she found herself alone in the lobby, soaking in the accomplishment. The scandal had died down eventually, replaced by new gossip, newer controversies. Some people still whispered, some still judged, but most had moved on to caring about her work rather than her personal life. There you are. Cashin appeared, looking windswept and happy, carrying 2 cups of coffee